When studying the research methods involved in developmental psychology, in addition to understanding and being able to identify them and define them and describe their differences in terms of method, it's also important to understand the strengths and weaknesses of each of the methods, especially longitudinal and cross-sectional studies. So we're going to take you through briefly looking at cross-sectional studies and some of the weaknesses and challenges of doing cross-sectional studies. So again, let's just make believe we're studying this group of people. I'm taking these age groups 2, 6, 10, 14, and 18. I'm taking into consideration you already understand what a cross-sectional study is. And one of the concepts associated with the cross-sectional studies is the cohort effect. And the cohort effect has been defined for you before, but it's defined again over here. And so what certain psychologists are really aware of are that there are historical factors that they split up usually into biological, cognitive, and psychosocial. Now you're going to see an overlap actually between all of those, because as we've learned, it's more of the biopsychosocial approach. They're all integrated, but we'll try to separate them out a little bit, but you'll still see some overlap. Let's say we were studying height and how children grow over time, and maybe we were interested in looking at what ages there are growth spurts, and if we compare these groups with each other, are we going to see certain growth spurts from certain time periods more prevalent than others? Well, obviously we know that things like ethnicity could be a factor, biological sex could be a factor as well in seeing differences between the groups, the members in the groups. But there can also be things like vaccinations or changes in nutrition that could affect growth, right? Think about all the factors that could affect growth. And also, growth in children is especially connected to weight. There's a correlation there. So let's say for instance, 10-year-olds are now more concerned about their weight and they eat differently. That can affect their weight. And maybe the people here didn't live under those different opinions about what it meant to be a 10-year-old skinny kid. Maybe their eating habits were actually less inhibited by popular opinion just because they didn't live through that when they were 10 years old, right? Because now they're 18. And then also how children spend their time. Are they more active or less active? That can also affect weight and obviously then height. So all of these factors can actually come into play. So psychologists are consistently concerned about the cohort effect, about how life experiences of the different age groups can impact whatever it is, whatever factor we're studying. Height, weight, could be a plethora of factors. One other example I just want to give you that might make a little bit more sense. Let's say we're studying these age groups, right? Those are our cohorts, our groups. And let's say we're studying prevalency of sexual activity and STDs. And let's say we're using females. Well, let's just say that we're studying them all at the same time, right? The study takes place in 2017 right now, and let's just say we have 5 females in each group, 5 12-year-olds, 5 15, 5 18, 5 21, 5 24. Now, obviously, their exposure to STDs will vary depending upon their sexual activity. However, let's just say that this group over here, they have a longer period for potentially being sexually active. And let's just say members of this group started becoming sexually active, let's just say when they were 14 years old. And let's just say there was no vaccine when they were 14 for the human papillomavirus. Therefore, they may be exposed to the human papillomavirus. And let's say these folks right now, who might just be becoming sexually active, have actually gotten the vaccination for the human papillomavirus. So they're not going to have the presence of that STD, even if they are sexually active. So we can see how life experience connected to something like a biological factor, like the emergence of a vaccine, can impact cross-sectional research.